Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Mary D Talk Show. Welcome back. I know last week we had a really serious topic. And not that our topics aren't serious, but that was a really serious one that we went over last week. But this week it's serious too. Let me just say that this is a very serious topic. The one you're going to speak with a paternity coach, Carnell Smith. He is our paternity coach. He's going to be coming on. But first, I'd like to thank you, our live viewers, for watching, and I'd like to thank you, the replay viewers. What can I say? Without you, the show wouldn't be here. You guys you email me, you text me, you tell me you enjoy the speakers. I cannot even begin to tell you what it means to hear from you. So those of you that wonder how do you get in contact with me, I have a phone number. I know you can't believe I have a phone number, but I do. I'll put the office number up. There's a number 619-669-8603. I like to definitely share that with you. You can always call and leave a message. If you would like to be a guest on the show, you can leave a message and I can let you know. Either I will or my assistant, Jocelyn, will let you know what the requirements are to be a guest on the show, or all kinds of ways you can get in touch with us. Those of you familiar with the email system, if you're not on the email system, you want to get on that system. Those of you know, we try to email really informative things that are going on in the community, but the emails go nationwide. They really probably go worldwide, but I only know about the ones I say in the United States it goes to. But the list has really grown tremendously. Let me tell you how to get on the email list. You can actually just send an email to contact at, let me see if I can put that, Front Page Publishing. Let me see if I can put that in there for you. Contact at Front Page. Well, I'll just put it in there so you know how to get it. This is how you send an email. Front Page Publishing. Here you go. You send an email there with your information, and you'll be put on the email list. There we go. Contact at frontpagepublishing.com. That's the publishing end of that Oliver and I have. Okay, I did everything but the welcome, huh? I tell you, I just got started today. As I said before, welcome live viewers, welcome replay viewers. I also want to thank our sponsors for the show. First, I'd like to thank my husband, Oliver D. Welch. He is the executive producer for the show. Thank you, babe. Always, he's the one that you guys don't see, but behind the scenes, he's the one doing everything you see. So that's his contribution. I'm the one that you see out front, but truthfully, it's a partnership. We work together. So I want to thank him. I'd like to thank one of our sponsors who's been here since the actual beginning of the show. He has been another person behind the scenes, but he's a sponsor for every single show, and that is Dumas Martin Jr. He is the president of the Idea Club. Thank you so much, Dumas, for your support. You have truly been there from day one of the show, so thank you. If you are looking to have to organize a nonprofit, an LLC, a limited liability corporation, an S Corp, or a C Corp, then you want to contact Dumas at the Idea Club. You go to theideaclub.com and you can contact Dumas there. And his information, I think, is scrolling by. Next, we want to thank Front Page Publishing. Front Page Publishing has right now going an anthology project called Transformations. It is not too late. You can still, if you write short stories or write poetry and you would like to be a published author and you have original works that haven't been published, then you definitely want to join the anthology project with Transformations. So the way to do that is to go to Front Page Publishing. Let me see. There we go. Front Page Publishing. I'm going to put that up for you. You go to that website and you click events and you can sign up. There's going to be on September 26th, a week from today. And it's about 35-40 minutes. And I actually am the one that started the anthology project. But what you get is just wow, it's phenomenal. All of your editing is included, everything's included with one fee, which is huge. Because normally people will tell you, a lot of people tell you, yes, you can contribute, but the editing is on top of that. We didn't do that. The editing is all in there. So when you pay that one fee, that's it. And you'll be a published author by the end of the year. Think about what we're talking about. The end of the year is not that far off. But our goal is to have this book published and it will be online and available for the year ends. So definitely the goal is to do that. And we said, hi, Richard. It's always good to see you, Richard. so, so we are working toward that. Just wanted to let you know that. So you definitely wanted to get on board with that. Now I want to go over a couple of books really quickly, and then I'll introduce you to our author, our special guest for today, because he is already in the waiting room. He's already in the green room. So I'm really happy to know that he's already here. This is one book that's been out that's doing really well on Amazon, Saying No Nicely. What I like about this book, ladies and gentlemen, you can read this in about 30 minutes. 30 minutes. And right now, I think it's like 18 5 stars on Amazon. It's doing really well. I'm very proud of this. This was my very first book for adults. And that's what was hard. As many of you know, I do write children's books, but this was the very first one I wrote just for adults. Saying No Nicely. And it's right there on Amazon. The next, another book. This is not for adults. This one over here. And that is, have you seen a red elephant? Many of you are familiar with that. Have you seen a red elephant? This is a children's book. Ages about, I say something about the 3-year-olds. Because what you'll notice about on every page, it says, have you seen a red elephant? So between the 2 and 3-year-olds, by the time you're on the 5th page, they have memorized it or they're reading it, but they like it. So I will say that. Next, from the I'll do all the children's at first. Okay, I'll do all the children's. Then children's is Stuck in the Elevator. True story. This is based on a true story. My husband and I were stuck in the elevator. We were in South America, in Brazil, and we were stuck in the elevator. We obviously got out. I always like to throw that in there. But it's a true story. When we were back in the hotel room, I actually said Oliver, that's a children's book. And he was still upset about it. He said, what's a children's book? I said, we were stuck in the elevator. That's a children's book. I think I wrote that book in about 40 minutes. That's how it came to me. And what you read in the book, those are true events. My Cat is a Spy. This is by our son, Justin. It's doing well also. This is, let me think. Is this a little older? No, because look how big the print is and everything. You can see how the print is really, really big on there. This is his book. He's really proud of this book. So are we. And this is another children's book by one of our authors, Fayette Foster. That's why his little face so happy. She is working on part 2 right now. So just so you know, you can, and every book that I'm holding up, you can get right there on Amazon. And let's see. And this one is not in paperback, but it will be in about, it's like a couple months away from being in paperback. It's only in how do you get a book out? Thank you, Ivani. You know, I actually am going to have a book signing. The question was, how do you get a book autographed from me? You would really have to email me and tell me you want a book, and I just haven't gone into that, but I will. It's going to be set up on our page. We're going to do that on the front page publishing page. Those of you that would like autographed copies, you would order them there. So that is what we're working on. We're going to add that. So thank you. I appreciate that. And hi, Ivani. This is my oldest author, and I really like saying that because this is from Dr. Henry. She's 89. She will be 90 on her next birthday, and this is her autobiography, her memoir, and it is excellent. I'm so proud of her. What I like about her book, if you notice, she has all kinds of pictures in it of her family, the family history, and then in the back, which we did, was we have her awards, and and it's just all kinds of pages. They have the different things she's received. some city awards, county, state, federal, national. It's just a wonderful book. And I've read the book a couple of times, but this is from Dr. Henry, who's our local, you can really say a legend in our community. So this is her book, From the Ashes I Rise. I'm really proud of her book. So another one from Front Page Publishing, by the way. And last but not least, we have, it's more books, and this is not all of them, it's just a part of them. And that is this one, Save Your Home from Probate. This book has saved so far over 100 families from having to go to probate when a homeowner passes away. Save your home from probate. I always say probate is the devil. That's how I look at probate. Probate is the devil. Now, those of you that don't think it is, that's because you've never been through probate. That's the only reason. So anyway, now that the commercials are gone, let me that's what that is. Let me tell you. We have with us today, I'm going to read you probably quite a bit of his bio. Let me see how long his bio is. Oh, I'll probably read the whole thing. It's not that long. And the reason I say that, some bios are longer than others, but his isn't. But I really want to get, so you can get a good idea of who we have today, because this gentleman has done, as they say, he's done his homework. Carnell Smith, the paternity coach, is a husband, father, grandfather. He's an ordained minister and engineer with a degree in electrical engineering technology, with studies in information technology and project management. Wow. Smith won his own paternity fraud case using the legislation that he co-wrote with Georgia Legislators after the Supreme Court of the United States denied his 2 constitutional arguments for vacating a lower court judgment based on verified DNA evidence. Wow. Smith has written model law, consulted on legislation in more than 10 states, gotten legislation passed in several states, was featured as a guest expert on the Dr. Phil, Fox Business News, CBS Early Show, Univision's Aki Iora, Fuji TV, Japan, featured in Time Magazine, Harvard Crimson Review Journal, Georgia State Law Review, Divorce Magazine, Men's Health Magazine, and Reason Magazine. Wow. Smith is the author of the book, Trapped by Law. Spokesman, workshop leader, as a frequent contributor to TV, radio, books, newspapers, magazines, and film projects in the United States and abroad. He has marketed and sold legal DNA testing for maternity, paternity, and immigration identifications for a decade, and currently serves on the advisory board for the Women Against Paternity Fraud, a 501c3 501c3 tax exempt nonprofit organization. Ladies, gentlemen, I like to bring to you this, when I say expert, outstanding expert on paternity and paternity cases, not just here in the United States, but really around the world, our very own Carnell Smith. There you are. Hi, Coach.
Hey, Coach Mary, how are you? Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you just fine.
Outstanding.
Yes.
And forgive my tan here. I'm a little melanated.
No, don't worry about that. No. I'm just glad. I'm looking at all of these accolades and just honored to have you come on the show.
The honor is mine for being invited. And I want to also thank you for being one of the esteemed ladies in our mastermind group who helped me with this title. You are a major contributor to this title existing and it going on to become a #1 Amazon seller in 3 categories.
Wow. Wow. That's excellent. We have a comment too. We have one of our viewers. Hi, Gwendolyn. She's also wanted to say hi to you.
Well, hello, Ms. Mary.
Tell you, we have a fan club here, and right now our fan club, which is Richard Nichols, Wybani Page, and Gwendolyn Stringer. Hello, everyone. And it took me a while to realize I only see if they comment, I see them, but there's more people watching than we even see. Let me just
outstanding.
So,
Well, there's a good reason that they should watch, and I will get into that.
oh yes, oh yes. Well, I can. Why don't you do this? Why don't you tell the audience about not only what you do, how did you get here?
Okay, okay. Well,
Okay.
as you've introduced me, I'm Carnell Smith, the paternity coach. I never in my, by the way, I'm 61. I would have never imagined in my life that I would find myself in this area understanding trapped by law. But unfortunately, like myself, five pastors that I know, a group of over 600 military men, and one billionaire, we all have one thing in common. And what we have found out, the mother of a child didn't tell the truth when she said we caused her pregnancy. And
Wow.
in my case, it took me 11 years to find out right after the court ordered me to pay 40% of my net income, reduce my visitation from unlimited to once every other week. And then then she blocked me from seeing the child on my court ordered days. And then my pastor's father talked me into getting a DNA test.
What? So prior to that, you didn't have a DNA test.
I didn't have a DNA test. And by the way, I had dated this young lady for 2.5 years. And she had always shown herself to be honest, above reproach, at least far as I knew. So I
Right.
didn't know there was a reason I should doubt her when she said 7 words, and forgive me how this is going to sound. It is not crass, but these are 7 words that no man on the planet wants to hear from an ex-girlfriend, an ex-fiance, an ex-wife. I'm pregnant and you are the father.
They don't want to. Nobody wants to hear those words.
Not from an ex.
Wait a minute. So that's what you heard.
That's what I heard. And then I did, my father told me, he says, listen, if you help bring kids in this world, you take care of them.
Yeah.
All right. So, but there was something my father didn't tell me. He said, if it would have been cool if he had told me, say, son, sometimes smiling faces tell lies and they don't tell the truth.
Right.
So what you should do is say, I'll support any child that we can confirm is mine. Did you catch that? I said,
got it.
confirm. And what is the most accurate method on the planet today compared to the old technology of blood group testing? It is DNA testing.
DNA testing.
And
yeah.
with the genetic fingerprint matching, you have the ability to narrow most cases of questions about family identity. You are able to narrow it down to one person in most cases.
Wow.
But here's how this unfolded.
I'm listening to this. I can't imagine that to have how old was 11?
She was 11. The child was 11 when I found out. But at this point, I had been marginalized to the point of where it was like 6 weeks before I had been allowed to see her before we got the DNA testing done.
Wow. So this was court ordered DNA test?
Nope. A next test came afterwards. See, first, my pastor's father said you need to get one of these based on his experience in the Air Force, what he had seen happen to military men.
Right.
So I took the test expecting to prove to him this is my daughter, because as you can see, I'm somewhat melanated in my complexion. The child was somewhat like my complexion, even though I don't have my glasses on right now, right? These are my contacts, so because I want to cut down on the glare, right? I wore glasses, the child wore glasses. Later, I found out after the DNA testing, the mother accused me of faking the test. So I said, well, okay, I will take another test, pick any lab you want to, because I knew I had done everything honestly.
Right.
I took a legal test, and she picked a lab, and this time that lab result came back and proved that she is 100% the biological mother. But it proved I was 0% the father, just like the first test did.
Wow. Oh my goodness. So yeah, so for 11 years, the young lady that you thought was your daughter, the child.
And no court orders. No court orders at that point. I did what we want responsible men to do, right? You shouldn't need a court order to tell you take care of your kid. Right. All right. But what I didn't know at the time is the way the legal structure of family court, child support enforcement, and
Mhm.
funding for the states
Mhm.
based on taxpayer dollars out of the federal government.
Right.
I didn't know that all of those entities would work against me once I found out what the truth was. And the truth is,
Wow.
look, the truth is, Coach Mary D, I'm not an anomaly. I'm not an isolated case. So I figured out there was two things that needed to be done, because once the judge ruled on my case, he said, it's your fault that you didn't find out sooner what the truth was. And I reacted just like you did.
I'm just like, that doesn't even sound. And not only that, why would you think that? Why would you not think that that was your child? Think about it.
Because I was dealing with a person that, far as I know, she had never lied on anything that I knew about. So if there was a trustworthy person
Ooh.
on the planet, in my book, she was leading the pack of trustworthy people.
So we thought. So you thought.
Like I said, until I had evidence to the contrary.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then my sister, one of my older sisters, I have 7 sisters, by the way, and one deceased. One of my older sisters let me in on the girl code.
And
And the girl code is sometimes the mother picks the father after conception based on some criteria. Which guy does she love the most? Which guy has the most financial resources?
I've never heard this, by the way. I must have missed that lesson, that class on the girl code. But go on.
Well, see, people who operate with honesty and integrity don't deal in those shady, dark levels.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't participate in the dark arts.
No.
But what my sister told me, though, she had girlfriends who had done it. And then she said, that's not your baby. And I was like, huh? What you mean? I was like, she looked like me. She's like, that's not your baby.
Wow. Your sister said this to you.
Yes. And I argued with my sister and defended my then current girlfriend.
Wow. This is something else.
but again, as I'm saying, at that time, once I finally get the truth, I come to some harsh realizations, Coach Mary. And that is, there's no way the child's mother didn't know that she had been involved with at least one other person without contraception.
Right.
And by the way, I figured my contraception had let me down.
That's what you thought.
That's what I thought. And she testified under oath that Mr. Smith had used contraception. So I figured, well, darn, it's not 100%. So we're on that fringe where in that 1 to 2% realm.
Correct.
So maybe this time, hey, they got me, right?
Yeah. Oh,
but
yeah.
The DNA test said that the contraception on my side didn't fail. And then as this, this whole thing is revealed, I suggest to the other side, I said, listen, we could wrap this whole thing up if you'll just give me an apology, and I just want back about 75% of my funds that I would have never paid you had you even told me in the beginning that there was somebody, it could have been the child's father. Because my immediate reaction would have been, well, until I see results that say it's mine, all we have is a statement that is not proven.
Well, when you were going through all this, what were you going through? Because I can't even imagine where your mind was through this, because you're arguing on her behalf the whole time.
Yeah. When I initially got those test results, went through a range of emotions that helped me be able to identify with other men and teen boys who go through similar experience. But also their families, because there must be some reason that 80 to 90% of the people who contact me are women trying to help a guy that's in her life, whether he's her son, grandson, nephew, boyfriend, fiance, new husband, or she's the second wife of the guy. All of those group of women have been the ones who've been contacting me over the past 2 decades, trying to help someone. Now, what the range of emotions to your question, once I got the test results and it really set in what 0% meant,
Mm-hmm.
I went through a grieving process because, in effect, that relationship died. And it wasn't the fault of the test that caused that. It's the fact that the child has been living a lie. My family, her mother's family, everybody has been pretty much living a lie based on one person who, by the way, she knowingly and she willingly concealed the existence of the other guy.
Woo,
And look,
this is deep.
yes, yes, yes. And there's a reason. Well, let me just shorten it for you. How it ended up because the judge said it was my fault, right? That I didn't find out sooner, even though I would have literally had to have a private investigator follow her 24/7, logging her activities. Now, how many people do that kind of investigation for an ex that you are no longer in a relationship with?
Nobody.
Nobody. Now, it is good advice to do that if you are in a relationship and you think you're in a monogamous relationship, and if you're the husband and you think you're in a monogamous relationship, and your wife is having extracurricular friends, you need that private investigator.
Right.
All right. If you're engaged to be married and your spidey senses go off, says, hey, you need to examine some things.
Right.
I've advised clients to hire a private investigator. All right.
Wow.
And I'm going to say there's some stories I have, but once I got to the court, though, I appealed this all the way to the next higher level court. And then at the same time, I started a simultaneous track to start legislation, because I have been reading some court decisions from the appellate court in my state and from the U.S. Supreme Court that said essentially really the only way you could get a definite outcome on a situation like this based on the truth is to limit or eliminate judicial discretion so that the judges could not ignore the DNA test. Because if I went to prison, let's flip the roles for temporarily for a second.
Okay.
Just put a pin right there. If you have been falsely accused of some criminal offense that you now go to prison for, there are several hundreds of cases have been overturned and vacated because the DNA evidence proved that the crime that got committed was not by the person who is locked up.
Correct.
And it would be patently unjust and unfair to make that person suffer continued loss of their freedom, loss of career, assets, and etc. when the person who you have locked up, you can conclusively prove they didn't do it.
Correct.
Well, now let's parallel that with family law court. Now we have a child or a baby, and as long as we have the existence of the child, that means mom got pregnant somehow.
Correct.
Now, who she points her finger at and says he did it, that part is up in the air and should be verified. And what is the most accurate method to verify?
DNA.
Is DNA. And the DNA, by the way, is impartial. It is fair. It doesn't care about what the man likes. It doesn't care about what the mother likes. It doesn't care about what the judge likes. And if those results come back as 0.0%, then he did not cause that pregnancy. And by the way, the reason I wrote the book is because men and boys face going to jail and prison until that order is vacated. I face going to prison.
Well, let me just stop. I'm going to stop momentarily right here first. This has been, I'm sitting, every time you say something, I keep saying, wow. And so our audience is doing the same thing. So first we had David. His comment was he wanted to say hi. Hi, David.
Greetings.
And then we have Wybani. She goes, wow. And I think because it's unbelievable that we can hear this. Elaine said, Mary and Carnell Smith, this is a very interesting topic for sure. It is. It really is. Because I'm listening to this. How many men? I know the numbers are stacked.
Well, I have the stats for you. And by the way, when you have statistics that are that are independent of the author, then the author is merely a reporter. The author is not the source. So, in accordance with the national accrediting body who certifies all of 45 DNA labs across North America, and these labs all do legal, parentage, and familial identity related testing. On an average, they're doing about 300 to 400,000 tests per year, and over 110,000 tests per year. The male, which means man or teen boy, who was tested, turns out he is not the father.
Well, right now, this is one of our audience. Gwen says, "I am a boy mom."
And yes,
All
she should
of
be
this,
concerned.
that's what she said. All of this is interesting to me. And I
Well, tell
think
her.
because how many times I already, so you're saying out of those tests, a
One out of
third of
three.
those tests,
Yes.
wow.
And
They're
it,
not,
by the way, in some areas, it's as high as 80% of those who get tested turn out to not to be the dads.
excuse me.
I have a former advocacy partner who opened up a DNA testing service in Michigan, and he's providing direct legal services to the court, just like I did here in Atlanta. And he says on child support day, it is not uncommon to get as much as 80% of the guys who've been accused. Testing reveals it was not him. Now,
Wow.
there's a message here, okay? Sometimes smiling faces don't tell the truth, but if we want to address social mores, okay, what this reveals is many people will readily attribute men as having multiple intimate partners and boys having multiple intimate partners. However, they try to turn a blind eye to women and girls having multiple intimate partners.
Right.
Now, if DNA testing reveals that she had to test 7 guys, or I know of a case as high as 16 guys before they found the biological father.
Wow. What?
Let's just say there are some ladies and girls who have a rather huge intimate appetite. If you're getting, am I saying this in a very PC kind of way?
You're doing a very good job. I'm still
All right.
I'm back to the 16 part, but anyway.
But here's the problem, though. As I push for legislation, my lawmakers said, well, what can you do about getting the statistical data for our state? And I said, well, tell you what, I will contact the DNA lab who has the agreement with our child support agency throughout the state. And I contacted the lab director for that company. And what they provided to me on over like 3-year period, they were doing like 90,000 DNA tests per year. And guess what? 30 to 33,000 of those that they tested turned out to not be the dads.
Another third. In other words, that's
so at the state, look, so at the state level, 1 out of 3. At the national level, 1 out of 3. Now keep in mind, that's not all of the paternity cases, and every case is not necessarily fraud. But what it does absolutely reveal is that we should be doing more testing and not less. You follow me?
But I would think at where we are in this day and age, they would test at the birth of that child.
We put a pencil in that.
Okay.
Because I literally got my character attacked, my name assaulted for suggesting that idea. Okay. So 2 things I'm doing at the same time, Coach Mary, is I'm appealing, I'm keeping my case alive because what I see is a twofold problem. One, it's extremely difficult for men and boys to get out of this legal trap. I couldn't get out with 2 DNA tests and the mother's sworn testimony that I didn't know about her and the other guy, and that she knowingly and willingly kept that information from me. But somehow the judge said it's my fault I didn't find out sooner. To this day, I still scratch my head trying to figure out how I was supposed to be a mind reader or some kind of way determine that. Irrespective of that, The judge had the evidence from the company that the mother picked. He had the evidence from the lab that I picked.
Right.
And what both of those test results confirm, that's a pregnancy that I had no hand in. I had no part in it. My DNA had no part in it. So therefore, in my opinion, and by the way, most of the fair-minded people, male, female, etc., they all said, well, why couldn't this thing be over in 15 minutes? Because guess what? Out of all of us who were in that courtroom, there was one person who knew who the other paternity candidates were. The same woman that pointed at me, she knew who the other guys were.
Exactly.
So when we put her under oath, to where now, if she did lie again, it was going to be used against her. She named the other guy in under 30 seconds, 11 years later.
Wow. So listen to all the people who've been hurt by this, because that means he didn't know he was a father of the.
That's right.
Wow. This is amazing.
So with these kind of situations, they have tentacles. Now,
yes,
as I'm presenting before the lawmakers, I'm calling for public hearings. So initially I started out in lobbying, standing in the rain by myself and inviting a television camera. And I started inviting people to public town hall meetings, because what I wanted the public to understand at large is, if it can happen to me, it can happen to your son, your grandson, and your husband, your boyfriend. Even right now, Coach Mary, be prepared for this. Your husband can be sued for child support right now by a woman he doesn't know, that he didn't touch. And if he doesn't go to court and defend himself, your money will be taken, including checking, savings, retirement assets, and he'll have an order for jail and or prison once it exceeds $2,501. So a lot of times, listen, a lot of times people end up with trouble because they're like, wait a minute, I don't even know that woman. And they ignore going to that court hearing. Fatal problem. But we'll like I said, we'll come back to that.
Right.
As I'm taking my case before the U.S. Supreme Court, I have now compiled the data of over 1.1 million men and boys that have been DNA verified as not the father nationwide.
1 million?
1.1 million. The number's higher now. Now, mind you, I did my appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court in 2002. And I had to disclose to them, by the way, we got the Georgia legislation passed. I got overwhelming support for this legislation, just me positioning it on fairness, on truth, and that everyone deserved to know what the truth was. Okay. My House of Representatives voted 163-0. My Senate voted 45-5. And the governor, who I had discussed this legislation with a year in advance, he told me, he says, I understand what you're saying. And by the way, he was a lawyer. He said, there's nothing I can do unless legislation comes across my desk. Well, Coach Murray, I told him, I said, okay, I'll be back. And a year later, I came back and he signed that legislation live on television with me and the judge from my case watching. And the judge apologized to me right there at the signing of the legislation and said he was wrong on his earlier decision.
Now, this is the same judge that said you should have known?
Exactly. Same judge.
But I can appreciate his apology, because
and
he
so
was
could
saying
I.
that. Because you know why? There's so many. I think he was erring on women, of taking care of women and children. That's what I think. Maybe I'm.
Well, that's a distinct possibility. But did you know that a judge is actually called a trier of fact?
Yes, I did know.
Not trier of feelings, not trier of appearances.
The trier of fact.
Trier of fact. The facts were, I have the mother's sworn story that she knowingly withheld information, which now led me to why I call this whole scenario paternity fraud. And I am hated, and there's extreme vitriol on me calling it paternity fraud. All right.
Yeah.
When someone alleges a husband, son, grandson, etc., down that list,
Mhm.
that's my child's father. And they swear out an affidavit. They file it with the court, either through themselves directly or through the agency of child support enforcement in the respective state or county.
Right.
That then is now used, and the guy is presumed guilty because she said he did it. Now, it is up to him at that point. Remember, this is not a criminal proceeding. So
Right.
your constitutional rights about you're innocent until proven guilty does not apply here, because family court is not a court of law. Family court is a court of equity, which means the judge has broad discretion that unless there's statutory law to limit what the judge can do, then the judge can literally ignore the DNA test results, and often did. And I showed that to the lawmakers as well. Now, as
That's
I'm presenting, the U.S. Supreme Court says, okay, we see you got this law passed in Georgia, and they made me spend money, Mary, to send them a brief containing all of the Georgia law information. That cost me like another $1,000. I had to send that to join my brief that I had already done.
mm-hmm.
So they had 2 meetings about it. And then they sent me back a 1-page letter from the U.S. Supreme Court because I raised 2 constitutional arguments. The goal here was to help everybody in all U.S. states and territories so they wouldn't have to come up with massive amounts of money for a legal fight. Okay.
Right.
They sent me back a 1-page line letter that says petition denied with no reason. And if you don't know the reason that your appeal has been denied, you can't
Right.
file for a motion of reconsideration citing law and etc.
Right.
But I raised valid constitutional arguments. I had law professors review it, and they all told me I was on point. Because at the lower court, everybody had assumed that because the mother said I did it,
Right.
the court's authority over me was predicated upon her telling the truth. Well, Mary, after we know that's not true, then the court should no longer have any authority over me because this is not my child. I
Right.
didn't adopt a child. Look, the child has been misled. I've been misled.
It's so
Both
many people
families.
hurt by this.
Come on now. You look, you're getting it. You're getting it. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, over my time of talking now, I would say I've probably talked to at least a good 15,000 or so people, either by me doing public meetings as I traveled across over 11 states, online, people contacting me because when you do the television shows, the Dr. Phil show that I did with one of my clients,
Mm-hmm.
that thing aired in 145 countries. So that's how I end up doing the show A Key Order for the Spanish-speaking network.
Wow.
And they asked me, well, do you know any Spanish-speaking paternity fraud victims? I said, how many do you need and in what flavor?
Wow.
I have a database from all these people that contact me.
Right.
So short story here, there's 4 main ways that I have consolidated that men and boys find themselves in this type of trap. And the number 1 way is signing that document at the hospital. They're essentially asking you to confess that you caused the pregnancy before you have any proof that you did it.
At the birth certificate?
No. Well, it can lead to the birth certificate if they incorporate it there, but it's called a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity. And in some states, they have a nice soft sounding name. They call it the PAPA program. But the technique goes this way. If you can get the guy to come to the hospital and get him to hold the baby, you must get him to hold the baby. All right. And while you get him to hold the baby, you ready for this? All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Oh, look at how the baby's got your eyes. Oh, got your nose too. And oh, wow. Look at that. Now, hold on. I need a pen. Okay. I don't have one on me. Guess what? Sign here. And signing that document authorizes them to be able to come after you for child support. It doesn't get you any rights for parenting time or visitation unless you were married to the mother. But if you were single, you just signed for the right to pay with no say. And in some states, if you sign that document, you just waived your right to the DNA test.
No way.
The big print giveth, the small print taketh
Take it
away.
away. Oh, I know about that. So, but then what is it called again?
It is called a voluntary acknowledgement program. And by the way, the hospital is making money based on how many people they get signed up. So the hospital could be making, say, $50 to $100 for each person signed up. All right. Is the hospital going to tell the teen boy or man that, sir, if you sign this document, you are waiving your rights to a DNA test later?
No.
Or are they going to get him to sign it and cash the money?
Because you know what it is, when those babies are born, everybody's all elated. Nobody cares about anything. They don't even think that that's not their child. They don't even, that's not even a thought.
Well, some of the guys are actually ashamed to ask that question, because you almost have to have nerves of steel that her family there, your family there, to say, now, hey, I have some concerns before I sign this confession.
They're not going to do that
until they hear about what happened to me and all of these other men and boys. Okay. When they hear about what happened, then the safest thing you could do is say, we're going to pause signing the document until I have verification. Notice how I'm using my words very carefully, because this is not about insulting. This is not about any attempt to shame the mother. It is because they cannot trust the family court. They cannot trust the child support enforcement agency. And both of those two, the judges and the child support agencies, well, he shouldn't have signed it then if he didn't know for sure. I said, okay, bet on that one. Carnell Smith will make this recommendation go forward. Under no circumstances, until you have DNA test results in your hand, do you sign. And for everybody with a teenage son under the sound of my voice, your teenage son can sign that document without you being there, and it'll be legally enforceable. And this is the only instance I can find where a minor can sign a document that will literally give them access to your resources, mother or father.
I never knew this.
Never have I ever heard trapped by law.
Well, why don't you hold your book up, because to say everybody can see the cover of your book.
I got it on the, here it is. Hold on. I got some boxes of them right here. Can you see this?
Turn it to at the angle.
How about now?
Hold on. I want to make sure it's Trapped by Law, ladies and gentlemen. And I know we need to have people get this book, because I think how many times have you heard situations the child is grown and the father has paid child support their entire, I've heard people put people through college. I've heard of it.
Oh, I the oldest person that I've tested was about an 86-year-old man, and he brought me 9 alleged kids to test. And the one that he thought wasn't his was his, and one, the opposite happened. So literally, one that he was absolutely convinced that was his was not. The one that he had questions about actually was, and all of the rest of them turned out to be his. So 8 out of 9 turned out to be his kids. And what he was doing was he was finalizing his will and his his last affairs. I didn't know if he had long for the earth or anything like that, but his kids heard me on radio or saw me on television. And back then I had a physical brick and mortar office back then. All right. So I've done these tests from as new as newborns, which now leads me to the second way that people become trapped. It's called a marital presumption. So any children that a woman has while she's married to her husband, even if they are legally separated, even if he is deployed out of the country in the military, the fact that they are still married, they are automatically put in his name. Yeah, that's a problem.
I've heard that before. I've heard people went to war, came back, and he's had a child, and the child was under him no matter what, because they're legally married.
Now, in this day and age, when those who adopt a modern philosophy that says I can do everything men can do. And I say,
Mhm.
well, look, in the interest of equality, let's also have equal responsibility and equal accountability. You
Right.
can do everything that men can do. You got to be accountable for doing everything that men can do. If men have multiple babies by different women, then he needs to be accountable for that.
Right.
However, if you're having intimate relations behind your husband's back with multiple dudes and you bringing home babies from that, you and the baby daddy need to be accountable for that.
Yeah.
Lead me to number three. The number three way that men and boys get caught in this is called an incorrect default judgment. You remember I gave that example a minute ago where I said someone can sue your husband right now.
Hmm.
Here's one thing they don't require in family court. There is no proof required from the child's mother to be submitted with her lawsuit when she says you, your husband, your son, your grandson, she has to submit no proof that he did it. So that's why I said you are presumed guilty because she said you did it. And if
Right.
you do not show up at that hearing, whether you ignored the hearing because you knew it wasn't you, or you're out of the country, like one guy in California. For him to be the dad, the mother would have had to carry that baby for 13 months.
Wow.
But because she named him, the US Navy took his paycheck. The state of California got a default judgment against him. When he got out of the military, he lost his VA benefits, his GI Bill. He spent money trying to fight and overturn this. And judges said, yeah, we acknowledge this fraud. But where did the fraud begin? This woman knows she didn't
Wow.
carry a baby for 13 months.
Wow.
Because,
Because she said it, this has
but
got to change. It has got to change.
And by the
Because
way, I've been to California twice. I've been to Sacramento working with folks to pass legislation there. And we had the ideal uh, paternity fraud. It's called the Paternity Justice Act. Back then, Assemblyman Rod Wright introduced it, shepherded the bill, gave his full weight and support. And the Governor Gray Davis vetoed that bill because the child support agency told him, if you sign this bill, the state of California will lose $40 million in federal funds. And he cared more about the federal funds than the rights of those men and boys to not be trapped under
wow.
a child support order for a pregnancy that they didn't commit. And by the
This
way,
is, oh, boy.
whoever told Governor Graver Davis that, they lied to him. Because the way I have countered this in all of my judicial hearings and legislative meetings, I asked one very simple question, Coach Mary.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, what would stop the court from asking the woman who filed her lawsuit with them,
Right.
bring her back into the court, swear her in, and ask her how many other people was she intimately involved with during the window of conception for her baby? And anybody she had relationships with, which is the child's conception date plus and minus 30 days. Anybody she had relationship during that window can be the child's father. Because as you know,
Mm-hmm.
all babies are not born full term.
Right.
Some babies are actually born longer than full term, and
Right.
some are born shorter than full term.
That's true.
And in my book, Coach Mary, I wrote a
Mm-hmm.
formula out that actually helped me solve a case with identical twins. I call it the ABCs of paternity. There's three critical pieces of information that men and boys need to know. And I tell people that this is so strong, you need to teach it to your teen sons so they will never get bamboozled. Number one, the A in the alphabet means age at birth. What is a full-term pregnancy, Coach Mary?
Oh my goodness. And I should know. I've
And
had
you've done it a few times.
3 times, and I still don't know I think I want to say 40 weeks. Is that
That is correct.
Okay.
Guess what most people think, though? Men and women I've come across all over the nation, they think full term is 9 months. 9 months is 36 weeks.
Oh,
A full term baby is 40 weeks or 280 days.
okay.
Now, if you're using 9 months as your gauge, you're already going to be off by calculations by 4 weeks. You see
Wow.
that? And that's a
Uh-huh.
big gap. So you need to know the age of the baby at birth. When the baby was delivered, how many weeks old was that baby?
Got it.
But most men and boys who've been accused of paternity are not going to know that information, and their
No.
only source of that information is to ask the child's mother, who, if she knows why he's asking, she is not going to give it to him.
Wow.
B, the birth date of the child. Well, the birth date of the child is reliable because there are multiple witnesses there in that delivery room.
Right.
There's the OBG, there's the nurses who are assisting, there's sometimes the father, the mother. In other words, there's multiple people there, and you don't have to take one person's word over when the baby dropped out of the chute, right?
Right.
Out of everything that exists, that's probably the most reliable thing. All right.
Right.
But next one is C, conception date. Now, in my practice of genetic services, I've come across many times women didn't know exactly when they got pregnant.
I believe that.
So here's why that matters. Let's say you're dealing with a woman or girl who is a parallel dater. That means she's in multiple relationships at the same time.
Right.
How could she possibly determine which one did it?
She's not going to know either.
She's not going to know. So how is she picking somebody? Let me see. This one makes $15 an hour. This one's makes $45 an hour. That's my baby daddy over here.
Well, I would tell you, I'm listening to you. I'm just like in awe. And I'm gonna tell you right now, we're gonna have you come back because we are down, believe it or not, we have like 2 minutes left in
All
this
right.
show.
Okay.
I am still in awe of the different and before we close, where do you see the future going with this? Oh, here we
Okay.
go. First of all,
Here's the future.
okay, this is Lions Homes. Thank you. And we have Oliver that said, welcome, Carnell, to the show. Thank you for your wealth of knowledge on the subject at hand.
Well,
He's our executive producer, so I want to make sure I say it. So let's see, where are we going? And we're going to have you come back. I do mean
all right. Well, let me tell you where it's going.
Okay.
A woman who I came across, she was the president of the American Child Support Enforcement Association, and she said this great idea. Okay. She said a woman should not be forced to put her husband's name on the birth certificate when her boyfriend is the father. Did you catch that?
I heard it.
And I said, well, then she said we should do DNA testing at birth. And people were like, yeah, it's not fair to make the woman who wants to put her boyfriend's name on the birth certificate instead of a husband. She should be able to do that. And Carnell Smith comes along and says, phenomenal idea. In fact, we need to expand on this idea. Since we can't get 100% of moms and girls to tell the truth because there are financial incentives to keep information from the guy she's pointing at.
Right.
There's too many incentives between what the state makes, the county makes, the hospital makes, and all of those actors on that side. None of them have an incentive to get the truth in the beginning. So for the sons and daughters, the men and boys who could get accused, we should do DNA testing at birth, and we will get 2 benefits immediately. The birth certificates would have verification of who's the biological mother and the biological father before they checked out of the hospital.
Oh, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to stop you right there. We're down to like 30 seconds.
All
First,
right.
I want to thank you for coming because this has been phenomenal. That's why you will be back. And Gwen says this was so good. Thank you so much, Mr. Smith. Got to jump off to another meeting. Thank you, Gwen. Thank you, Carnell. You will be back, this I promise, because this is too important and it's affecting people's lives.
And that's why I'm the paternity coach. I am the paternitycoach.com. All
right. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again, Carnell. This is the end of our show for today. I know if you, my mouth was just open the whole show. The whole show. I know that's Elaine even said that. She said he must come back. because you could tell he's a wealth of knowledge. Thank you, each and every one of you for being here for today's show. We will be back next Monday. God bless you. See you then. Bye-bye, everybody.